Today we are going over the CAA. I have had a new wave of questions regarding CAA and I want to address that here. If you are an employer, an HR manager, a financial advisor, a CPA, a CFO, CEO, and you have a business that offers employee benefits, then it is important for you to know just a very high-level overview of what this is and what your responsibilities are going to be going forward. A little bit of background here. On December 27th, 2020, the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, or the CAA, was enacted. CAA was implemented as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. It was one of two bills. The first one was the CARES Act, and the second one is this CAA statute. And it's a massive statute. It's about 6,000 pages. I'm not going to go over what's in all 6,000 pages of this act, but what I am going to do is give a brief overview. Now, part of this CAA, it's under Section 204 of the Title II, Division BB of the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021. This created a new and ongoing reporting requirement via ERISA. And in short, health insurance companies and group health plans must submit reports to CMS, or the Center for Medicare Medicaid Services. HHS must issue a public report based on all of the data collected. When CMS collects all of this information on prescription drug costs, the top 50 most expensive drugs, the top 50 most used brand name drugs, and so on, all this data that they're collecting, there will be a report issued. The first report is due June 27th, 2024. Basically, this act is asking that all parties involved with health insurance submit information, reporting information about claims. And specifically, it's really targeted towards prescription drug data. In short, insurance companies and employer-based health plans must submit information about prescription drugs and healthcare spending. The data submitted is called RxDC. The RX stands for prescription drugs. The DC stands for data collection. The Center for Medicare Medicaid Services, aka CMS, is collecting the RxDC information on behalf of the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Labor, the Department of Treasury, and the Office of Personnel Management. Now, most of my clients are fully insured, and for those of you that have self-funded plans out there, you have been dealing with the CAA and you're probably very familiar with it. Now, what's changed? Well, there's been some change in guidance. So insurance carriers, even for your fully insured plans, may be sending you a letter and requesting you to file a D1 form. And that is exactly what has happened to several of my clients. And I want to review that with you and talk about exactly what you need to do and what that looks like and why this is happening. Many of your fully insured carriers have already submitted the 2020 and 2021 data on your behalf. However, going forward, all of those reports must be submitted in June. So the 2022 data has to be submitted by June 2023. The regulatory agencies initially allowed good faith estimates. As a result, many of the insurance carriers made the decision to file this information on employers' behalf. The law requires a group of health plans, health insurers who offer group coverage to submit information and reporting annually, and certain information about prescription drug and healthcare spending must be included in these reports. Who is required? Basically, everyone who handles claims for prescriptions. So any health insurance issuers, HMOs, fully insured and self-funded employer-based group health plans. If you are a fully insured group, your insurance carriers likely have been taking care of this for you. However, there have been some changes in guidance, so some of those carriers are trying to push off some of the filings onto the employer. And it is your fiduciary responsibility to make sure that all of the forms get done. Now, who is not required to report? FSAs and HRAs. Surprisingly, even though these plans do pay some prescription drug costs, they are not required to do any filing. Also, dental and vision, short-term limited duration insurance or short-term insurance, a lot of these travel insurance sort of plans, hospital or other fixed indemnity plans are excluded, and disease-specific insurance, usually like a Colonial or an Aflac type of supplemental policy, would fall under that category. Medicare Advantage and Part D plans are not required to file, which is interesting. Medicaid plans and state children's health insurance plan programs are not required. So basically, a lot of these government subsidized plans are not required to file. There are penalties associated with non-compliance, so we need to make sure that we are doing our due diligence in these areas surrounding the CAA. All reports are submitted to CMS. They're doing the administrative work, and CMS will be releasing reports on the data they collect and publish their findings about prescription drugs and trends and the impacts of prescription drug rebates and costs. The intent behind this legislation is to get information out there to negotiate with insurance carriers. The idea is to provide valuable information about competition and market competition in the pharmaceutical and healthcare industries and markets. Many employers suspect that they have been manipulated over several decades, and there are clauses built into their contracts with insurance carriers, PBMs, and other third-party administrators that do not allow them to use their own information in negotiating with their insurance carriers. Those, what they call gag clauses, have now been removed, and you as the employer, it is your responsibility. You have a new fiduciary stated responsibility in this act to vet that those gag clauses have been removed from your health insurance plans. The legislation aims to collect all information on all parties involved in prescription drug claims and what happens between the member getting their medication and the pharmaceutical manufacturer. You would be surprised on how many hands are involved in between that process. And there are rebates, there are PBMs, there are all sorts of different money-changing exchanges done in between those two endpoints. What are the forms that have to be filed? So required files include plan files, those are the P files, data files, which are the D files, and narrative files. Files may be submitted by the plan sponsor, the insurer or the insurance carrier, the TPA, or the PBM. The first one is the P forms, and these are, P is for basically plan. This includes the group health plan name, the group health plan number, market segment, plan year beginning date, plan year end date, members as of December 31st of the reference year, issuer name, EIN, TPA name and EIN, PBM name and EIN, and include all D1 through D8 forms. Now, the D files or data files, D1 includes the B1 form, is the premium and life years. And this is the form that many or some fully insured carriers are trying to push off to the employer to complete. D2 is the spending category. This is where the carrier would submit information about spending. D3 is the top 50 most frequent brand name drugs used. D4 is the top 50 most costly drugs on the plan. D5 are the top 50 drugs by spending increase. D6 is the prescription drug totals. D7 are RX prescription drug rebates by therapeutic class. And D8 are RX rebates for the top 25 drugs. And the final step is a response narrative. This is a more detailed piece where the insurer can go through and add some context to the data. Now, where do you get this information? So we have had self-insured plans for the last couple of years are very used to this process by now. However, fully insured are getting roped in, a couple of them, depending on your health insurance carrier. So your health insurance carrier may be asking you to report on the D1 file. The D1 file has to do with premium and life years. Life years are going to be the average number of employees that you have had in the reference year, which is going to be the calendar year. It is important to have some sort of a system that is tracking how many employees you have on your plan every month. And to calculate the life years, you determine the number of members covered in a given day of each month and add all 12 numbers together and then divide by 12. Hopefully you found that information useful and that it shed some light on the CAA and what it is and how it applies to you as an employer or a decision maker. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I have a link down below. I can give you up to 30 minutes of my time, but only if you complete the questionnaire. You have to complete that questionnaire below, and I can review some of your plan data with you for that 30 minutes absolutely for free. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and we'll see you next time.